I'm Julie Herman of J-Brick Quilts and Lazy Girl Designs, and welcome back to the Gravity Sew Along. We've now finished cutting all of our pieces for month 9, and it's time to begin piecing these blocks. Thank you for being here along with me on this journey. If you have not yet seen the cutting video, I suggest you start there. The link can be found in the caption below. For block 9, we're going to go ahead and put together all the skills that we have learned in our previous blocks. And so the first thing that we're going to do is take our A and D, and we are going to sew our triangles onto opposite corners of our hexagon to create one large pieced diamond. And I like to do that by using my blunt point up here and then letting my sharp point overhang. You can also go ahead and blunt that point if you would like. Whatever helps you to get the best alignment. And I don't need to worry about pressing this one yet because it's not in the way. Just going to go ahead and add my other triangle on the other side, the opposite side of my hexagon. And then this is where having my tags on is really going to help, because there's a lot of small steps that just all have the same pieces, all have diamonds. But if you have your tags on, you'll know that you need an E to a C, so forth and so on. So it's the first thing that I need. So I'm going to go ahead, and I did cut the sharp points off here because it will definitely help me with my alignment. So as you can see with my blunt point there, I know exactly where to line things up. Repeat that same step with an F and a B. Make sure I have them the right way, because you very easily can, do that, which is not what you want, do that, which is not what you want. So always reference your book. I am on page 31, and make sure that you are putting everything in the correct place. It's definitely one of those double check before sewing. Okay, now that we have those 3 sections done, we are going to sew them together. So I could turn my iron on here. I am going to opt to just use my Violet Craft seam roller, which you've seen me use many times, just to lightly press these seams open just enough so that I can continue my piecing without having to turn my iron on. So that is my B and F. I'm just going to kind of stack it back on top of B and F while I'm pressing everything, just to keep myself nice and organized. And this is my E and C combo, and I still have more of each of those because I need them for future steps. So I start by just finger pressing open. And I do make sure that once my block is done, if I have not been pressing with heat during my piecing and just using my seam roller, I do make sure to press my block at the end, because heat really will help everything to lie nice and flat. So I took my center and my FB, and then it looks like my EC is going to go over here. And this is important to make sure that you have the same rotation. If you look at the diagram on 30, you'll see that it goes B, C, E, F, B, C, E, F, all the way around the block. So by keeping things in the correct place, it'll help the alignment of those pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and first piece this one on, and if you want to go ahead and make that not a sharp point so that you know exactly where to line it up, you can. In this case, because these are creating a V, they're going to line up right on top of each other. So this is one of the few times you could press to one side and nest if you would like. But as you know by now, since we are on block 9, those opportunities are few and far between. So I much prefer to press open and keep things nice and flat. And I could pin here, but I'm just choosing to use my fingers to hold things in place. You choose what works best for you. Go ahead and go back onto my scrap. And I don't need to do any pressing before the next step because it's not going to intersect anything. So I'm going to rotate everything around so that I have a smaller piece to my right side when I go to flip everything at the machine. Generally speaking, I always sew with a smaller piece on top, unless there is a reason to sew with a larger piece, which there occasionally is, and I often tell you what that reason is. Sometimes it's when you're sewing sashing around things and you don't want to lose points, but that is not the case here. So again, I'm going to line that up and sew down the length of this piece. And then I need to go ahead and take the rest of my diamonds and make 2 different lines. One is step 5 and one is step 6. So I'm going to go ahead and do one at a time so that I don't misplace any of my pieces, because it is important to me that as much as possible I keep things in the order that I designed them in, because I think that's the order that they will look best in. So I've got F, B, C, E. Sounds like I'm writing a musical play. So I'm going to piece the first 2 together. And it's just the same as when I piece the other 2 diamonds. Now, one thing to note here is you could go ahead and piece 2 and 2 and then put them together. And if you're worried about things getting mixed up, you can go ahead and move your tags back onto these pieces, or you can, if you really are afraid of mixing things up, sew the 2, go back onto your scrap, take your piece off, lay it back out, check to make sure that you have your fabrics in the correct order, and add the 3rd piece and continue. I suggest sewing with whichever method is going to work best for you. All of us have different brains that work differently, and if I have learned anything in all of my time sewing and teaching, it is that the method that works best for me may or may not be the method that works best for you, so forth and so on. And so I really want to encourage you to figure out what is going to work best for you. And it doesn't have to be the same as me. It might be, and it's okay if it is or isn't. The most important part is that you are enjoying the process and you are happy with your results, and you end up with a beautiful quilt that you can love and enjoy, or pass along and gift to someone if that is what you so choose to do. So I am going to lay this out, and then this piece that I just sewed is actually going to be the one that's going to go at the top here. And now I have my pieces in a different order, so I need to shift them. You will see the pieces get sewn together in a different order in step 6 than they do in step 5. So make sure you're paying attention close to that, because we got a lot of diamonds here and don't want to mix things up. So I'm going to move the B at this point over to here. It's the same fabric. That way I know it's still on the correct fabric, in case I need to reference later and be like, which fabric was B, which fabric was F. And I'm going to continue the process of sewing these diamonds together. And again, double checking as I go. And I am moving my pieces over here just because these oranges are really close together and I don't want to be like, wait, which one was E again? So I'm definitely using my tags here. Some blocks I use them more than others. I hope they have been helpful for you, and if not, that's okay too. Our last one is C, which is up here. Okay. So now at this point, I do have a lot of intersections. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my iron on, press all my seams open, and then I went ahead and pressed everything, and I'm going to show you how to complete the block. And one last time, I'm just going to remind you how helpful the tags are, because it is really easy to go and get something twisted even at this point. because you could sew them together. So if you see the same color, that is kind of your red flag too. Am I in the right place? Is this what it's supposed to look like? So this piece is going to flip onto here. I'm going to slide this one out of the way for the moment. And I don't pin often, but this is one of those times where I will pin. And so our corners are going to get pinned. Our blunt points are going to fit nicely into our corners there. So I'm going to start with our two ends. And then here, I'm going to line up the point, the upper right point in the seam allowance, to the seam over there. So I'm going to have it shift it down just so you see, but it's going to look up like this. And that way, once we sew, it will line up perfectly. Then this is one of the few times that it is going to line up on top of itself. So technically, if the seams were pressed one way or the other, you could nest here, but those occurrences are few and far between. So I'm just going to line those up on top of each other and put in a pin. And then here, the upper right corner is going to line up there, and the upper left corner with the triangle of my little dog ear in my seam allowance. And as you probably know by now, I could sew the length of the seam, hope for the best, or I can do my thread pinning and double check everything. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. So what that is just sew about 1/2 inch on either side of the intersection, taking my pins out as I go. I'm just going to cut my thread when I'm done. If your pins are enough in the outside of the seam allowance, you can just leave them and then take them out. But if they're not, take them out as you go, because you never want to sew over pins. So I'm just going to snip these little threads. And then my project is still pinned in 2 places on my ends, so I'm going to be careful. I'm just going to very carefully open. Not perfect, but pretty darn close. That one's great. And that one's off, which happens. So this tells me that I either sewed it too scant, which is what I think I did, or that I wasn't lined up right. So I am going to sew from the back. One thing I find is often if I have a mistake on one side, I have more success on the other side. Not really sure why, but I'm going to sew from the back for a minute and see if it was my seam allowance. And if it was, then I can take out the stitches that are closer to the edge. And if not, I will go ahead and realign the piece. So let's see. Yep, that was what it was. So now that I did a little bit more of a generous seam allowance, it is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and you can see the difference. I just kind of got a little bit away from my 1/4 inch guide foot and about 2 or 3 threads. And that's really all it takes for something to be off. So now I'm going to carefully take out the stitching. Now, if I was going to press my seam to the side, I wouldn't even have to take this out, but I will be pressing the seam open. So if I leave this in, it'll kind of be in the way of pressing the seam open. So just got to get enough of it out so that I will be able to press that later. And so now that I am happy with the 3 locations, I'm going to go ahead and sew the length of the seam, and I'm going to sew, make sure that I sew back onto this thread each time, and that way nothing is going to shift or move. Oh, where's my little scrap? Never want to forget that. Okay, let's see how that turned out. So there we go. Pretty good. So I will repeat that process with the other piece and take my tags off as I go once I know that everything is in the correct place. And so I will flip it over, do my thread pinning, check, and then sew the length of that seam. And then once I have that done, I'll go ahead and press my orange block and then go and finish my blue block. Thanks for watching. If this video was helpful for you, be sure to like it, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel.
Show us your progress on your gravity blocks in our Facebook group. We'd love to see how you're coming along with your quilt. The link to the Facebook group is below. Thank you so much for watching the Gravity Sew Along. If this video series was helpful for you, please be sure to like the videos, leave comments, and subscribe to the channel. I would love to see what you have done with your gravity quilt, the progress on your blocks, and where you're at in putting your entire quilt together. You can continue to post all of that in our Facebook group.